COVID Chats continues today with my guest, Steven Bressan. I met Steven during my time on the National Student Exchange in Chico, California. Steven is a senior at the New College of Florida, majoring in natural sciences. We discussed what it's like wrapping up his senior year online, the environment, and our plans to hike the Appalachian Trail in March. Now, on to episode 23 of COVID Chats. Hello, Steven, and welcome to episode 23 of COVID Chats.
Hi, Reuben. It's good to see you here.
It is good to see you too. It's been a long time. I'm glad I can see your face and those glowing golden curls. You and I, of course, met on the National Student Exchange in Chico, California, which feels like a long time ago at this point, right? It's crazy.
It certainly is, I'd say.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I'm actually wearing the National Student Exchange shirt over here for the talk. So I got several questions for you, spanning different elements of your life. But first, I'm just curious, how you doing? How are you?
Excellent. So overall, I'm doing all right. I'm doing my best to hold out through the quarantine here in the U.S., as is pretty much everybody else. So, it's certainly a change from my usual lifestyle.
Right.
And we're making it through, though. And things here in Florida, it's beautiful. It's late springtime. So just all the flowers are blooming. All the trees have leafed out. So it's quite a wonderland here compared to much of the rest of the continental U.S.
I'm sure it is gorgeous. I've never been to Florida. I always wanted to visit you down there while you were there. Unfortunately, that is currently off the table. I'm glad you are safe. I'm glad you're doing well. So my first sort of question for you is, I know you have an Eagle Scout background, currently an Eagle Scout. I guess once an Eagle Scout, always an Eagle Scout. So I'm curious, what are a few valuable skills that maybe you learned as an Eagle Scout that can correlate maybe to the world of today and what we're going through? Is there any elements of that preparedness or other skills related to it that have helped? Maybe not. I know, a little specific, but
potentially, I would say, especially one thing that can really help is a lot of the quarantine is the anticipation and the anxiety. And so there's a big focus on first aid training throughout your time in the Boy Scouts. As you move up in ranks, they pretty much all have requirements to demonstrate some sort of first aid skills. And so once you go through that, you feel like you can probably handle some sort of emergency situation long enough that a real emergency responder could come and provide medical service. Right. So it kind of, it at least gives you psychological feeling of if any first aid type stuff from day to day comes up, I don't feel like I have a lot of pressure to maybe try to go into a hospital that is very busy, otherwise occupied with important things.
Right.
If I get, some sort of minor cut, something like that. I don't know.
That's fair.
Not sure how much first aid I've learned can apply to the coronavirus.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
I'd say other values of just, there's a lot of kind of community building that they try to put in and teach ethics about participating in your community and trying to better your community as a whole. And so I think that would especially apply now in the situation where everyone needs to stay home and everyone needs to practice social distancing. And, I've had a lot of situations where I've been trying to get some groceries and I've had somebody come right up on me for no apparent reason, and they're just not doing the thing. Right. And so hopefully all the Eagle Scouts out there have learned a sense of community ethics and are all practicing social distancing and working together to try not to transmit the virus. So
well, that sounds like a few different ways in which being an Eagle Scout seems to have helped you in this. I mean, I think the first one, being of sound mind, that that you have these, certain skills, first aid skills, that you can take care of yourself to a certain extent, of course. That's That's huge. Absolutely. And then certainly understanding the role of community. I mean, we need that now more than ever, right? I mean, I've said that maybe 1,000 times on this program, even though I've only done 23 episodes, but it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of the reason I do the program, right? Is to build community, talk to my friends, talk to new people, stay in touch, see people's faces. It's important. What's the social distancing like in Florida? Are a lot of people not abiding by it?
It's like, maybe like a little more than 50-50, depends.
Really?
But yeah.
Yikes.
Maybe, it could be the patrons of the grocery stores that I've chosen to go to are just particularly inept at it. But, I only have my own experience. I don't know what it's like for the people who go to Sam's Club.
Right. Depends
So,
on the market. Is the supermarket there enforcing any distancing? Like, is there a line to go in? Are they limiting the amount of people in the store at all?
yeah, there's definitely legal limits to the amount of people they can have in the stores. And
Okay.
they definitely observe that. Since I've been going very sporadically, like, I don't know how often there's a big line outside of the store. I go at pretty much random times at this point since I have no other schedule. And so I just I'm like, oh, is this a good time to go? Like when I think there won't be that many people there, and I'm like, sure, and I go, and usually there's more people than I want to be there, but it's okay. There haven't been any like major lines either
Okay.
for me.
That's good. Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think going in the morning, early morning is usually a good bet. I tried to go to Trader Joe's early in the morning today. Absolutely crazy. I mean, there was a line to get in. The actual shopping inside took less time than the waiting online outside. And I showed up, I was there at 8 in the morning, as they were opening, and there was already a line formed. It's crazy.
I see.
Yeah. I mean,
Do you think
shopping
that's a
came out.
function of the
Huh?
Oh,
Sorry.
do you think that's a function of the density? Because, Florida is characterized by this utterly unplanned urban sprawl for acres and acres and acres of single family homes.
Right.
Followed by yeah,
I think
interesting.
that's a good point. I think that is definitely, one of the downsides to living in the city during a time like this, that kind of density. Yeah, there was a very large line for Trader Joe's. It's interesting though, just based on our conversation, it sounds like even despite the density, New Yorkers seem to be doing a pretty good job of social distancing, while down in Florida it's a little hit or miss.
Yeah, it's definitely iffy, but I think the message sent by the steering committees for these particular states is pretty different.
Absolutely.
And the reality of what's going on for the individual citizen is pretty different.
100%.
This is a long ways from New York. I don't think a lot of people here really understand what New York State is, where it is, what happens there.
Right. That's fair. That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, the state by state differences have really played a big role in this, and it's a shame that we have states vying for aid. They have to fight each other over aid. It's like everyone needs help. This should just be given out by need base, not shouldn't be a competition for masks and ventilators. Crazy situation. Pivoting a little bit, I know you're an environmentalist. We did a lot of hiking outside, and you're someone who has a lot of knowledge about the environment and the flora and the fauna. So I'm curious. The environment seems to be bouncing back in incredible ways as a result of this, right? Less pollution. What does that little break in pollution maybe mean, big picture? Do you think this kind of thing is going to last, or is it just a blip?
Well, I would say right now it's going to be a blip, but I think this is just more of the iceberg punching through the side of the Titanic. We've already seen the tip of the iceberg 50 years ago, and now we're a little bit past the tip of the iceberg. So, at some point there's going to be an extended blip in the whole carbon dioxide release, I think, and hopefully it's voluntary. Is my goal.
So would you say that is that analogy mean that we're too far gone? Or is there still a chance for us to save the environment to some extent?
No, I wouldn't say that we're too far gone. Like, based on, my background, like there's been a lot of species that have come and gone over the earth having life. And so, like, in the grand scheme of things, if things really go down the tubes and we hit rock bottom, like, the overall life stuff is going to keep happening here
Right.
for quite a while without us.
That's true.
So, like, I wouldn't be super pessimistic about that, but I think that every day climate change is affecting more and more people's lives directly.
Right.
And so as that continues to happen, there's going to be even bigger, uprisings, changes in thinking paradigms, different plans that are put out. We've seen a lot of that here in Florida, especially. I'm in Manatee County, which is the number one most vulnerable county in the United States to sea level rise. And so, like, here in particular, they're doing quite a bit about sea level rise, where in some other places they're not so worried about it yet, that they are just not thinking about it.
What are they doing
But,
for the sea level rise? What are they doing to try to mitigate that?
well, pretty much the main thing to do is work on building up your like coastal defense system. So the real trouble is the sea level rise is going to rise a little bit, but when the hurricanes come in, the hurricanes take so much storm surge with them that now that extra couple feet is going to mean like a ton more damage than it would have in the past. And so restoring these coastal ecosystems of mangroves that have just been lost to, like McMansion's hardened seawall the whole way along the side of the coast, is they're finding these areas that can still be restored, making new mangrove area, creating oyster beds, creating seagrass habitat. And of course, this has a lot of other impacts other than just stormwater management and like storm surge management. This has a lot of overall benefits for the animals and plants that live in the area too.
Right.
So, yeah, certainly, as well as the people that live there, a lot of these have recreation trails. So there's a lot of opportunity.
That's encouraging. I'm glad there's some good news coming out of Florida. So maybe I know it might just be a blip what we're experiencing right now with the dip in pollution, but is there any way that environmentally conscious people can sort of harness this moment maybe, besides just the regular, recycling, composting, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like the biggest thing you can do right now in quarantine is figure out how to get some seeds and just grow some of your own food if you can. That's like the number one thing that I would recommend, is you have to eat every single day. You probably enjoy eating throughout the day, most days. And so just getting back that connection of your food, your very bodily sustenance that makes you up, comes right out of the dirt of the earth somewhere that you probably don't know where that is right now.
Right.
You just get it from a supermarket. But finding that lost connection and restoring it with just something as simple as growing some lettuce at home. It only takes a couple weeks. It's very easy, but it can really, like, it has very deep, like, meaning to me at least.
Yeah.
And being able to watch the plants grow also gives you something to look forward to each day, because there's a progression that happens, but you have to be really patient. So
That's a beautiful thing. Are you growing anything currently?
I'm growing all sorts of stuff here.
Oh.
I have quite a beautiful setup. So back in March, when it became pretty apparent that quarantine was coming in hard and fast, I set out to the plant nursery that's like right across the street, and I bought a few plants, and I dug some up as well out of our larger garden, and then potted them and brought them here to my house. And I have a back porch and like a little front porch area. So I have a pretty good variety of mostly flowers, but we do have some that are also edible. So
That's lovely. I'm glad I'm glad you're putting the produce to good use, and that's something. Of course, not everybody can do that, right? Not everybody has a nice backyard and whatnot. Me mostly living in the city, I say that, but that is nice. That's not something I would have thought about But yeah, no, certainly, providing for yourself sustenance is always important, but in a time like quarantine, it's a great thing to do. Um, on the topic of the environment, we had plans slash have plans to hike the Appalachian Trail in March 2021. How does Corona change that, you
Well, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm thinking like there is potentially twice as many people, but realistically, I think a lot of people are not going to go back the next year. So I think next year there's going to be like 15% more people than the average
think?
would be my
So
like guess.
now, what about, do you know any people, any through hikers who are on the trail right now? What do you think that's like going through that now?
No, I don't know anybody personally who went this year. I'm sure if we went on YouTube, we could find blogs that, went up right up until like, oh yeah, they just told us it's time to go home. It's all over this year.
Oh, wow.
But,
So you think they were required to get off the trail?
well, nobody's forced them to but, the Conservancy has specifically said that everybody needs to get off the trail, and anyone who finishes during quarantine is not going to get officially recognized in the
Wow.
Conservancy's logbook. So if being recognized means a lot to you, then I'm sure that means a lot to a lot of people,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't hike. But, I think also there's some people who say, I don't care if my name's in some book, I'm going to hike the whole trail. And so I think that this year, you're not going to hear about them, but there are definitely going to be some guerrilla hikers who are going the whole way throughout quarantine, just from place to place.
It's pretty cool.
But yeah, maybe one of them will write a memoir, and in 15 years we can read about it.
That's pretty groovy. Yeah, I mean, that'd be interesting. I wonder if a lot of people did go home, it can be nice to hike the trail, right? With a little less people on it, a little more room to yourself. It's automatic social distancing right there with less people on the trail. So, okay. Well, have you been hiking yourself or getting outside? I mean, you're outside right now, I see, but.
Yeah, I've certainly been getting outside. I haven't been doing a lot of hiking. Where I am in Florida is, kind of far from a lot of hiking areas, and then they close down the state parks, and so that cuts down on a lot of opportunities. As we talked about, those preserves are actually still open, with social distancing enforced, etc. So I have made it out to those a couple times, but I've also been going to my college campus, which is open. And interestingly, there's no students there at all. Everyone's gone home. But I've seen more community members out, walking their dogs, just relaxing on the greens than I have at any of my other years at the college. So it's really amazing to see so many people coming out and like making use of the beautiful grounds that are available to them during only this time. But I hope that a lot of people will discover this place and keep coming back to it for years.
Mm. Yeah, no, I mean, that's great that they're finally recognizing the beautiful verdant green pasture, grass, shrubbery, what have you. I mean, I was never there, but I saw some pictures of the campus. It certainly looked beautiful. I guess my only concern with a lot of people suddenly going out would be, again, distancing, but I'm not going to harp on that. People are going to do what they are going to do. I just hope they're being safe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big place. Like, I certainly haven't seen anybody being close to each other by more than, like 10 or 20 yards.
Yeah,
So it's yeah, like the people who seem to be coming out are definitely spacing themselves.
Good. So yes, you mentioned you were at the new college in Florida, where you're in Florida right now, and you're a graduate or soon to be graduate. What's that like to finish up in quarantine?
Yeah, so pretty remarkable. I certainly didn't expect to spend the last quarter of my senior year doing online classes, but at this point, I've completed every requirement I need for graduation. So at this point, it is like, it would look really bad if I failed my classes. so I'm not gonna do it. But even if I did, I'd still get my degree. So it's like there's just so much relief. There's like from that, it's because I set a goal for myself, and it was certainly like a pretty long term, like lofty goal. And every year I came and I put in the work in all my classes, and here I am coming out the other end of the tunnel with the degree now. So I think it was worth it.
Yeah, that certainly worth it. I'm just, it's such a strange process to shift to online learning. I've spoken to a couple different college seniors. Actually, my first guest on the program was a senior, and then I spoke to my cousin who was a senior and graduating. I mean, I feel for you guys, certainly, because that college is such a great time to be together and to be in person. But yeah, certainly, as you said, you've completed the overall goal, and that's what matters. You got the degree, you have the knowledge, you have what's reflected in the degree, so that counts. Corona can't take that away.
Yeah, that's true. The online classes are for sure a bummer. I certainly never signed up for online classes, and they have been lackluster compared to real classes.
Yeah.
But there's only 2 weeks of the semester left, so not too much complaining to be done at this point because it's almost all over.
It's true. And we're all lucky enough, to be in college, to have access to the internet tools to connect yourself. There's a lot to be grateful for. Going through this quarantine could be a lot worse, and is a lot worse for other people who don't have access to that kind of thing. So that's always a positive. What was it like presenting your thesis online?
Presenting online went great. I had some minimal contact with video chat before, but never in an actual like real official setting. But I went in, Google has already got like 3 different competing tools for the same video chat thing. So eventually we used one of those, and it was quite simple and straightforward, and it worked well. And things went well, and it was actually pretty cool because if I'd had it in person, some of my family and people who got to tune in, one of my friends is in the Philippines, like they wouldn't have been able to tune in.
Right.
So doing it online actually managed to like bring in some people who I otherwise wouldn't have gotten to quite as directly show it to. So I was very thankful that it worked out well.
That's very cool. Yeah, I wanted to be there. I know. I apologize. I missed it. I think I had a different video conference at the time. These Zooms are taking over my life a little bit every day, but
yeah, there's a lot of them to be scheduled.
There's a lot, too many, but they are necessary, but still. So what are do you have plans post graduation, or is that we're just waiting out quarantine for right now?
Yeah, so main thing is waiting out quarantine, but I do have a pretty solid deadline coming up. My lease expires here in about 4 weeks, so at that point I'm out. And where I go, it depends. I have a house in Pennsylvania where I can go live with my parents, and so I also applied to an internship, but I'm fully expecting it to be canceled or at least delayed due to the coronavirus. So, but I haven't heard back anything from them either way, so I guess I'm still in consideration at this point.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, so we'll see, but I'm working on getting things set up for the summer. I am hopefully going to continue working on the work that I did for my thesis project here at New College, along with a couple professors and another student who graduated a couple years ago, and get it all spick and span and submit it to a journal to be published. So that would be quite fantastic, and that's definitely quite a bit more work to go. But I have help at this point. I have a lot of people who have already done a lot of things in their life, so I think it'll go pretty smoothly, and I'm excited to see how that turns out.
That'd be wonderful. I would certainly love to see it if it gets published, and best of luck on that process. I know that's a hard process to get something like that published. The research, compiling it all, typing it all up. It's no easy feat. So how are your parents back in Pennsylvania? They doing well?
Yeah, they're doing well. They are certainly feeling cooped up
Right.
with the quarantine,
Yeah.
but otherwise, yeah, let's see. So last I heard in the county that they live in Pennsylvania, there's about 5 coronavirus cases,
Oh,
and they, have just been quarantining, getting delivery groceries, doing their best not to get close to anybody. They're both over 60 years old, so they're definitely watching out.
right. Right. That was part of the
So
reason I mentioned that. I'm concerned for my parents as well. Just they're older and they're more at risk. They're not us, and of course, young people like us certainly can get it, have gotten it. Some have died from it, but it's a little bit less of the concerning demographics.
yeah, for sure. So
Mm,
things seem to be going well though for them. They have a big chest freezer, one of those real big ones. It's all full of food. So they're set to hold out for like a month.
excellent, excellent. So any other thoughts on COVID-19 and how it's affected you? I mean, you seem to be doing pretty well. Of course, you were keeping busy with school and whatnot, but how else has it been for you?
Yeah, well, one thing that was definitely a bummer is, everything shut down here at the college. And so I am one of the caretakers for the student gardens area. And with all of our volunteer labor leaving, the gardens are a little bit in disarray now.
Mm,
And I'm also bummed I had a pretty nice planting plan all designed and about $500 budget to go and buy a whole bunch of plants and plant them all around the garden, and it was going to be great. And so of course then everything shut down and the budget got frozen, and we're no longer going to order plants and plant any this year. So
yeah,
I've been pretty disappointed about that because along with my like doing my thesis, that was going to be kind of my other like leaving new college, like, oh, I'm going to get this all nice and beautiful with these like perennial native flowers and grasses that are going to grow back every year.
right.
And that just didn't happen. But the whole plan's there, so if they want to next year, somebody could still order the plants and put them in. But
I'm sorry, buddy. That's a shame, especially when you have it all planned out. And I know it's something you enjoy a lot, planting. And I mean, we already talked about it on the on the show so far, but that's a shame. Any other elements? Do you know anybody personally? Any students who have gotten it? What are the case numbers like in Sarasota?
well, things are like pretty pretty bad around here because this is such a retirement area, and
Mm,
there's so many assisted living homes, and that's really where the transmission in Manatee and Sarasota counties here in Florida has been happening. From what I've been able to understand, just from looking at the news of the area, the local news for
right.
the Sarasota and Bradenton. So yeah, I don't know anybody personally who has like gotten it here in Florida. And then part of what's contributed to that is, most of the people I knew went to new college and now they dispersed and are just everywhere over the face of the earth. And so there's honestly like only a few people I know here in Florida, but everyone's quarantining. Nobody has it at this point.
Mm,
So
yeah.
hospitals very busy in the area though. Like they're quite full.
Mm,
And they all have coronavirus patients in them. So
yikes. Yeah. Yeah, certainly those old age homes are an issue. Assisted living, anything with the elderly of that kind, because one of them has it, and it can spread very quickly in a facility like that. And of course, they're such a at-risk demographic. That's not good. Do you know anybody who's? I spoke to a friend of mine who's volunteering at not a hospital, but is volunteering at a testing center. Do you know anybody who's involved with that, or are there testing centers set up? Could you get tested if you wanted?
potentially, I think so. I think testing is coming back around in Florida, and they're aiming to get more of it done.
Hmm.
At the moment, I couldn't tell you for sure if there's a testing center nearby that's open to me I don't really like suspect that I have coronavirus at this moment. So
Right. Good.
I'm not I'm not too sure what they would think.
Sure.
So don't know.
That's fair.
Further research required.
For what was that?
Further research required to answer that question.
No problem. I won't make you do the research. I'm very happy to hear that you don't have coronavirus. Yeah, I mean, if there aren't any, any other further thoughts, I don't have any more questions for you regarding your experience. I mean, it sounds like you're doing pretty well, all things considered.
Overall, yeah, holding together. So
Well,
thank
that's
you
good
for
to
having me here. So
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's great to see you. It's great to catch up. That's a big point of the program for me personally, is to catch up with people. And then, of course, the larger ideas of spreading togetherness and empathy and all those important things that we need now. So thank you, Steven. Very much appreciate it. And stay safe, wash the hands, and we'll keep in touch.
excellent. Thank you.
See you, buddy.
See you later.